In this lesson, we're going to take a look at applying the distributive property. So how do I simplify an expression? Let's take a look at equivalent expressions. Equivalent expressions are two expressions that have the same value. So when we're talking about the distributive property and them having the same value, let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at something like the 3 times 4 plus 5, and applying that distributive property where I'm going to multiply these. I'd have 3 times 4 is equal to then 12, and 3 times 5 is equal to 15. Remember, we said 4 plus 5 is equal to 9, and 9 times 3 is equal to 27, and we have 12 plus 15, which is equal to also 27. So these are two expressions that have the same value. All right, because the distributive property has multiplication in it, and it's been a while since we've reviewed those rules for multiplying integers, let's just take a minute to review them. Remember, we've got positive numbers, we have negative numbers, and I always like to draw those little faces showing when we multiply a positive number times a positive number, remember that is going to result in a happy situation, a positive. So we could have 4 times 5 is going to be equal to 20. All right, so we also have, when we're multiplying a negative times a negative, he's also going to be happy there too. It's positive. Look at how cute he looks. So if I have like a negative 4 times a negative 5, that's also going to be a positive answer, which is equal to positive 20. Now let's look at what happens when we have a positive times a negative. Look how silly he looks. Almost looks like he's got a hurt eye or something. And so in this case, we'd have 4 times negative 5, and that's going to result into, so a positive times a negative is going to result into a negative 20. And the same thing is going to be if I have a negative times a positive. We're going to get the same result of a negative 4 times a positive 5 is equal to then negative 20. Basically, we need to remember that when you have like positive times positive and negative times negative, those are going to result always in a positive answer. All right, so let's simplify these expressions by applying the distributive property. Remember, the distributive property has both multiplication and addition or subtraction in it. And so we always need to then multiply here first. So I'm going to take a negative 3 times 4x, and so you're going to take, that's going to be a negative 12x. And remember, distribute. I like to think about it as you have to hand out that negative 3 to both parts of that expression. And so now we're going to take our negative 3 times, and this is a negative 5. Sometimes we get a little mixed up, and it might be helpful for a while if we make that plus a negative, so you can see that that's a negative. So remember, a negative times a negative is going to be a positive, so I'm going to have 15. And I cannot simplify this any further because those are not like terms. All right, number 2. We have y plus 6 in parentheses times 8. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply that 8 times both of those pieces in that expression. So I'm going to be given an 8y because 8 times y is equal to 8y. And then I have the 8 times 6, which is equal to 48. And I cannot simplify this any further. I will have 8y plus 48. All right, our next one, we have 1/3. If we ever get mixed up and you're struggling with those fractions, just take out your calculator and do 1 divided by 3 and then multiply it by 9. All right, the 1/3, what this looks like, times 9, I'm going to put that all over 1. Top number times top number, 9. 3 times 1 is 3. It's equal to then 9 divided by 3 is 3. All right, so we have 3x. And then we're going to multiply. So 1/3 of 12 is equal to 4. And so I cannot simplify this anymore. I have 3x plus 4. All right, in number 4, notice you just have a negative sign outside of this parenthesis. What I like to do is I like to put a 1 right there, so it makes that a negative 1. So you remember to distribute that negative to both parts. Basically what it is it's kind of like saying the opposite of 7 is negative 7. The opposite of negative 3 is positive 3. But let's just go ahead and I'm going to put the 1 right there because I think that's helpful. All right, negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. Negative times remember this is a negative 3m. Remember, if you need to, do the plus a negative so you don't drop that. All right, so negative times negative is a positive 3m. All right, so now our next one, I have negative 2p plus 1 times negative 3p. All right, so I'm going to take this right here, and let's multiply our integers first. I have negative 3 times negative 2. That's going to give me a positive 6. A negative times negative is positive. Now, when you have p times p, how many p's do we have? I have 2 p's, and we represent that by going p squared. All right, negative 3p times 1. And that's going to give me a negative 3p. Now, because these are not like terms, they're not like terms because one has a squared and one has just a p. It's almost like having p to the first power. Those are not like terms, so I cannot simplify that any further. All right, so number 6, notice we have 7x squared minus 10x minus 2x squared plus 4x. All right, in this case, notice we're not distributing anything here, but we need to combine those like terms. The like terms I have are the 7x squared and the negative 2x squared. So I'm going to take 7, and remember, do not forget that there's a minus right there. All right, 7x squared minus 2x squared, I'm going to have a 5x squared. And now I have a negative 10, and I have a positive 4. All right, negative 10 plus 4 is going to give me a negative 6, and I can't forget my x on there. And now I cannot combine this any further, so I'm going to leave it as 5x squared minus 6x. All right, number 7. I'm going to take 3 times m plus 5 minus 10. All right. If you think about the order of operations, let's write that down below here. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Remember, p represents parentheses, and I do have parentheses, m plus 5, but I cannot simplify anything within there. So I'm going to go on to the next. I have no exponents, but then I do have some multiplication. Remember, multiplication and division are going to go from left to right, and addition and subtraction are going to go from left to right. So let's go ahead, and we have to take care of our multiplication first before we can do any addition or subtraction. So let's go ahead and multiply. I have 3m, and 3 times 5 then is plus 15. And now don't forget, you're not distributing that 3 over to the negative 10. You're just going to, this is the only part that gets multiplied, and now I'm just going to write down my negative 10. All right, I can still simplify. These right here are like terms, so I'm going to have my 3m, and then positive 15 minus 10 gives me a positive 5. All right, number 8. Let's take a look. I have negative 2x. I'm going to have negative 2 times x is going to give me a negative 2x. Negative 2, remember that's a negative 3 right there, times negative 2 times negative 3 is going to give me a positive. So I'm going to have a positive answer plus 6. And now let's just go ahead and write down our 17x. And now notice, I can simplify my negative 2x plus 17x, and that's going to give me a 15x. Now I'll have plus 6, and I cannot simplify it any further. And for our last one, I have 15t minus 4. Remember, what I did before is I took and I made that, I put a 1 right there. So I'm going to distribute this. I'm doing my multiplication first. I'm just going to bring my 15t down. I'm not going to work with it right now. So now I have a negative 1 times t is going to give me negative 1t. Negative times negative is going to give me a positive 4. And so now I'm going to simplify. 15t plus 4 is, oops, I'm sorry. I'm just going to change colors here. So I have 15t minus 1t is what I need to do first. So 15 minus 1 is 14t, and I have nothing to combine with my 4, so I'm just going to leave that as 14t plus 4. So in this lesson, we took a look at how to apply the distributive property.